My name is Wesley Sanchez. I currently work for Excel Energy, and I am the senior safety consultant for transmission. In my career before I found Safety Geek, I was uh, like all safety consultants or whatever it be. I dropped into the position not knowing what I was getting myself into, and it happened to be, there was no one to talk to, there was no one to ask questions. I had to literally figure it out as I was going, and it was quite a while before I found the Safety Geek. And what ended up happening during that time is I figured a lot of it out. But when I found the Safety Geek and I heard Bry talking on YouTube and stuff like that, I was like, wow, what an amazing person. And then the first thing I did was I was trying to justify the cost of paying, for the Safety Geek. And in the end, I have no regrets. It did a couple of things for me. One is it confirmed that I was on the right track. Two, it was nice to have someone speaking to the areas that I didn't know very well. And then also, it gave me that confirmation that the direction I was going was correct. And it's kind of hard being in this by yourself when you have no one to look back to or ask questions to. And but the training, amazing. It gave me all the confidence I need, whatever, and then also confirmed the areas I was going correctly on. And there's a lot I took away from it. My goals for taking the training were to first off try to learn some of the things that I didn't know. I mean, I'm always open for a infinite growth mindset, and always learning and taking into consideration that other people have better ways of doing things that I may have that I'm doing them. And when I started going through the training and just confirming that I was on the right track, and then I found areas like one of the things that Bry talked about is how, getting to know the employees personally, not just saying hi to them every day, but actually keeping track of what's in their life and growing those relationships with them. And when you start doing that, it really does open up a lot of doors to uh, just that interaction. And the culture is the number one thing that you have to change in safety. And that's one of the things that I did take away is, growing that safety culture that I would. And that was some of the goals, is to grow the safety culture, change the mindset of the management, find different ways and techniques of pulling safety in, because you could have your herd, but if you can't lead them, then you don't really have safety. And that's the number one thing that I took away from uh, the Safety Geek is, how to really gather that culture together and make your culture even top notch. So one of the major things that took place in my previous company that I worked for 25 years, and did safety for that company for 12 years. After taking the training for Safety Geek, I came to realize, that there's a lot that goes into uh, changing management perception, employee perception, safety perception. And after I had learned these skills and became better at, communicating with the management, the emails and the better communication with the vice president of the company. And after I had become better at communication, one of the things that really stood out to me is they they really wanted to have safety, but when it came to actually committing and getting the buy-in from the employees, they didn't really have safeties back. And I felt like at the time, knowing what I knew after taking the training and what we were lacking, and then presenting it to the company onto fixing what we were lacking, and still falling upon deaf ears because they want to keep on trucking the same way they had been going for years. It came apparently obvious to me that at some point someone was going to pass away on my watch. And although I knew what needed to be done, it was hard for them to understand, like, to make changes themselves, and how safety comes from the top down. And if it doesn't, then, you are going to have issues. And they really did have a good intentions of safety for the most part, but they just didn't quite understand like where their role interacted of how management controls culture and culture controls safety. And that's what we were lacking. And I didn't want to have anyone die on my watch, whatever. And so it led me to go to a company that does have more safety mindset, and the employees are involved 100%. And that's what I'm working for now, is an energy company who they don't have uh, the leeway to make mistakes. I mean, an employee is not paying attention in this position or this job, they may not be going home. So it's important to make sure that the company does actually have the best interest of all the employees, and they're promoting safety like the way it should be. And it's a top-down safety, and the employees are actually driving the safety themselves. And that's the culture that you want, is a culture where the employees are actually driving the safety. And I do feel like I wished I would have had more time to spend time with that other company to maybe get them to where they need to be, to where it was the culture of management top down. I'm sure if I would have had more time to work with them, I could have actually done that. But being that I took the training from Safety Geek and they actually gave me the skills to actually go out and feel more confident working for a large corporation like I'm working for, I couldn't pass this opportunity and I had to take it. And it was largely because of the confidence that the training gave me. When it comes to the change in my pay, now currently make around $50,000 more than what I was making with the previous company. So, as in terms of taking care of my family, my life has improved quite a bit. And that's like I said, whatever. I mean, having the Safety Geek to give you that confidence and to go into the interview and to answer questions top notch and the way they should have been answered. You know what I mean? Because the confidence and the training that I had from Safety Geek made that apparent, and it made it so they wanted to select me to be in this position, and it's benefited me in my life. I went over as just the safety consultant, what I mean, at first, and then they promoted me to senior safety within a year. The way I approached taking all the courses is I'm the type of person where I like to do it over and over until I feel like I have it down. There's a lot of information to digest and it's well organized, it's well put together. But the problem that I had going through, and it's not a problem, it's a good thing. But the problem I had was I was going through, I would be like, oh, I just learned something new. And I'm like, I got to experiment with this first before I move on. So before I knew it, whatever, it took me almost 2 years to go through the whole entire program because as I was learning the information, how to do it differently, I was going back through and practicing it in the actual job, whatever. So I had to keep on restarting over and over. And after I had that problem solved, whatever, then I'd move on to the next course and I'd be like, oh, here's 10 more things I got to deal with. So I'd go through and I'd start working and implement them into the company. So it really was amazing to have, a lot of that information and going through and testing it and actually working with it and adjusting it as I learned it, and great stuff. It was just amazing program all the way around. I was the safety director at the previous company, and there was a lot of challenges and stresses that come along with holding that position and that management and being responsible for not just the 80 employees that I had under me, but also responsible for the I think it was close to 5,000 employees at the time that we had at the previous company. And there's a lot of stress that came with that. I mean, there was a lot of countless hours that I was putting in. And one thing that I did miss out on is with my daughters, and they were growing up without me. So now at this point, I took on this new role where I can actually work 40 hours, get paid still good money, and be home with my family. It was really fun being a leader and not just a manager or a boss, but a leader to the group and people wanting to follow us, and support the decision that I was making on the best and being open minded to everybody collaborating to steering safety the direction it shouldn't go and not just one person steering it, but as a group we'd be steering it. But as for right now, my goal is to basically be the best safety consultant that I could be right now and support the groups that I support on any information or job tasks that they have to make in their day safe, make sure they go home at the end of the day. My life has improved quite a bit. It's given me the skills, the knowledge, the confidence. And like I said, management controls the culture, culture controls the safety. And if you can't get those people to follow your direction, then at that point, you're not going to be really leading safety like the way you should be. So my encouragement is take the training. It's fairly cheap considering the long term and the goal of what you want to be later on in life. You know what I mean? And giving you that confidence. So to me, it's a drop in the bucket for any of the money that's being charged at the end. Uh, I can't speak nothing but highly of the program, and being that Bri is constantly there to answer questions if you need her to. She has her talk sessions, and I encourage you to get in there and ask those questions. She makes herself available. And I feel bad sometimes I miss those sessions, but I try to catch them when I can. There's a learning curve to safety, whatever. And at first, when I first got into safety, I was trampling the hell out of the managers. You know what I mean? And not learning how to work them, but I actually stopped and actually started making them a part of the decision making and helping, like, get to where we need to be. It made a huge difference in safety or whatever. But after I found you, whatever, like, well, figured that out the long way. But you know what I mean? It's just kind of nice to see, like, there was someone else confirming it because there's no one there to teach you that kind of stuff. You smash the house, whatever, and then you don't get buy-in, and then you have to relearn and go back and start from the beginning of trying to re-educate. And when you do that to people, it takes a while for them to get past that you wronged them at what they feel is wrong, whatever, you know what I mean? And then so it sets you back quite a bit, you know what I mean? It took me a while to get their trust back and to, get that safety back to where we need to be. So, but I'd have to say, if I'd have had this from the beginning, I wouldn't have trampled so many people.